raised up a man that was going to stand against that system. All of a sudden, Moses, who had been raised up in the system, but had had an epiphany, come along and he said, this isn't right. Something needs to change here. What would have happened if Moses said, oh no, God, I can't challenge the system. This is like my adopted father that I have to. This is like... But God had to raise up a man that was willing to start a counterculture. A man that was willing to say, let my people go. A number of years ago, Canadian Radio and Television had, CRTC, had a law that nobody was allowed to broadcast 24 hours a day Christian programming in Canada. Nobody. Now, we were supposed to be a free nation. We were supposed to be a democratic nation. But the law was, by the CRTC, that there will not be any 24-hour-a-day Christian broadcasting. If you wanted to set up a Christian radio station, you had to give equal time to the other religions. So if you wanted a Christian radio station, you also had to let the Muslims and the Hindus and the whoever else all had to have opportunity to share their viewpoints on your radio station, or also, if you're going to call it Christian. Dr. George Hill, founder of Victory Church International, said this is wrong. He says, God has called us to reach the world. God has called us to preach the gospel to the poor. God has called us to bring a message of salvation and hope through Jesus Christ. This is wrong. This law needs to be challenged, and we're going to see this law changed. Why? Counterculture. We can't tuck in nicely. And they began to challenge it. Medicine Hat, Alberta. The first church, or not the first church, but the church of Medicine Hat, Alberta, opened up a television station inside its church. And they started broadcasting 24 hours a day, Christian television. CRTC sent a bunch of people over there. They broke down the walls of the church and confiscated the equipment. Not the walls, the doors. Broke down the doors of the church and confiscated the equipment and said, this is wrong, you're illegal, we're going to charge you and throw you in prison. You're breaking the law. And Dr. George looked at him and said, the law I live under is higher than your law. Go ahead. So they began to threaten or jail time, and Dr. George looked at him finally, he just laughed, he says, you know, go ahead. He says, you guys throw me in jail, that is absolutely the best advertising I can get. Oh, but he's breaking the law. The law needed to be changed. This was a law that was against the law of God. Counterculture. What ended up happening when the CRTC had its hearings those days, they went back and forth across Canada, they listened to different areas, they had hearings to see what the feedback was on Christian television, Christian radio, whatever, what kind of feedback that people had, and what ended up, they granted one license. One license was granted to one 24-hour-a-day Christian broadcasting station, which is known as the Miracle Channel, which was started by Victory Churches International. The first one, the pioneer, that said this culture that we're living under is wrong. What happened? Miracle Channel got started up. Miracle Channel, we just heard now, is going to be coming under the directorship of Leon Fontaine. Ever heard of Leon Fontaine? He's the fellow that started, or not started, but took over Springs Church in Winnipeg, and is able to grow it to the place where it is now. Is going to be taking over the Miracle Channel now and running the Miracle Channel. Why? Because somebody stood up. Now, since then, there's been other programs, but somebody had to break the culture. Somebody had to step forward and say, what we're doing isn't good enough anymore. Do you know it takes pioneer spirit to do that? It takes a pioneer spirit to step out and to go into territory that hasn't been gone before and to say, this has got to be changed, this has got to be opened up, this has got to be settled, this has got to be moved, this has got to be coming down into the Lordship of Jesus Christ. I believe we need people in politics, we need people in the governments that are going to be able to say, these are the things that need to happen, and can start making the changes, affecting the changes. It's counterculture. Then in Matthew 16:24, final scripture. Then said Jesus unto his disciples, if any man will come after me, let him deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. Counterculture-minded people will have as their mission the goal of change and reformation. Do you know it only takes a very few people to stand up for one idea or for one concept, and they're going to be able to start bringing that thing to pass, even through our governments? I heard at one point that every letter that the government gets about a situation counts to them as 1,000 people writing. So that means if 50 people write, as far as they're concerned, they've had 50,000 people that have that belief system. You can make a difference. But it means we're going to have to stand up, and we're going to have to want to see things change. We're going to have to want to change our society. We're going to have to want to reform the places that we live. Now, according to the dictionary, a counterculture is a culture with values and morals that run counter to those of established society. As a result, we're not afraid of the changes that come when the truth of the gospel is revealed, but wholeheartedly embrace it first into our own lives and then move on and advance it into society. See, too often when change comes, we as Christians want to distance ourselves. We hear people talking about, wanting to, the abortion debate, and how many Christians want to draw back. Well, we don't want to be part of that. We don't want to be involved. That we don't want to. Why don't we want to stop the killing of babies? We hear about some of the things that our nation wants to legalize, and we draw back, and we need to be pushing in and saying, no, it's time to stop. They want to lower their age for consensual sex. Why? They want to open the airwaves to more garbage. Why? Why is the church not standing up and taking a place and saying, it's time to turn this around? One of the things that I used this example before, but it's just something that stuck with me throughout the years. Mae West was known, when she was a movie icon, she was noted for being sort of a sex kid. Her big risque shot, she was skidding onto a train, and they took a picture and it showed her a little bit of leg in her ankle as she was getting onto the train. Oh, caused great uproar. That this woman will be revealing this much. Can you imagine? Years later in America, one of the reporters found Mae West and he went to interview her. And by that time, the American public had become used to all manners of undress on public television. They went up and asked Mae West, they says, how do you feel about all of the freedom that we have now in Hollywood and all these things, where all of these things can happen? Like, you ended up opening up doors, and now you see where it's all going. How do you feel about all of this? And she made a comment. She says, where's the church? She says, in my day, the church would never have allowed that. If the world is asking, where's the church? What is the church asking? See, when people with a counterculture mentality that are going to affect change, men and women who are willing to suffer temporary unpleasantness or ostracization of a subculture to make lasting changes. Now, we live in peace whenever possible, but our allegiance is to God. If we're living to God, we will benefit the rest of our society, our governments, our businesses, and etc. When we are willing to stand righteous, we're going to change our society. What's my part? I don't think we all have to become wild-eyed, raving maniacs, flaunting and waving placards in the corners. I don't think that's what we're called to do. Can you find one young woman that's looking or contemplating an abortion? Can you find her and share the love of Christ with them? So there's another way.